Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ez Hashem together on Daf Yud Amud Beis at the very top. The Gemara had previously told us that Yeshaya Hanavi comes to visit Chizkiah HaMelech, and he says to him, you're going to die and you're not going to live. You're going to die in this world, you're not going to live in the next world because you're Mavatel the mitzvah Piri Verivya. You did not get married. Chizkiah says to him, let me marry your daughter, and in your schus and in my zechus will be zeicha to have a child that is worthy. Yeshaya says there's already a gezer against you. Chizkiah HaMelech says, I have a Mesara from my great-grandfather David HaMelech, that afilu cherev chada munach al tzover shel adam al yimna atzmoi min harachamim. A person shall still daven even the darkest, most direst situations. Says the Gemara now even more. Omer Rav Chanan afilu bal hachaloimois oimer lo la'adam lamachar hu meis al yimna atzmoi min harachamim. Even when a bal hachaloimois, meaning to say not just a navi who comes to a person, but even a malach, in this case who's memuneh on the chaloimois, on dreams of a person, and says that he will die, he shall not desist from being mevakesh racham in davin takrish bochu, as it says in the posuk, shene'emar ki beroiv chaloimois vehavolim udvorim harbe. Instead of all of the chaloimois and the havolim and the many words and things, ki es elokim yarei, the posuk says, you shall fear Hashem, meaning to say that all of the chaloimos are just havolim, but rather ki es Hashem elokim yarei. It is just HaKadosh Baruch Hu that is maybe sending you a message to do tshuva, and therefore mischazek and daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to change the gezerah. Now the Gemara tells us what Chizkiah HaMelech did. Miyad, immediately it testifies. Vayosef Chizkiah ponov el hakir. Vayispalel Hashem. He turned to the kir and he davened to Hashem. What's the significance of the kir? Says the Gemara, my kir, Omar Rebbe Shimon Lokish, mikiros liboy. It's referring to the kiros of his heart. He davened from the depths of his heart. Shenemar, it says, may I, my innards, oichila kiros libi, I shudder from the depths of my heart, the walls of my heart. Rabbi Levi Omar al iske hakir, another interpretation of what hakir, what the walls are referring to. This is what Chizkiah was saying. Omar lefonov, riboino shel oilom, uma shunamis sheloi osasa elekir achas ketano, hechyasa es beno. Here the Gemara is referring to an incident. There was a Shunamis woman, a great woman, who gave hospitality to Elisha. Elisha wanted to repay her for her hospitality, and he found out that she doesn't have any children. So he came to the woman, he said to her, this time next year you will be embracing a child. Well, the child soon grew up and the child passed away. The Shunamis woman came to Elisha, and Elisha came back and revived the child. Chizkiah HaMelech now says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if indeed you took somebody who was on its way out, who was already dead, and you brought it back to life, only as a kirachas ketana from this woman, the Shunamis, which built a kirachas ketana of hospitality, then abi abba shechofa es hahechal, kuloi bekesef uvezov, al achas kama v'kama. Then how much more so that my grandfather Shlomo HaMelech, who covered the heichal with gold and silver, then should then cause me not to die in that zechus. Says the Gemara, bringing the nusach of the tefillah of Chizkiah HaMelech as follows: Zechor na es asher hisalachti lefonecha. Remember, please, that I traveled before you. Be'emes ubelev sholem. Uvehatoy be'einecha asisin. I did good in your eyes. Ask the Gemara, my hatoy be'einecha asisi. It already said that he traveled before HaKadosh Baruch Hu be'emes ubelev sholem. What is this coming to add? Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, Shesomach geula letfila. He was so careful that in the very beginning of the day, in the most prime time, he said Kriya Shema, was makabel upon himself Malchus Shomayim, right before the sun peaks out at the Netz HaChama, and then in the earliest possible time to then daven. He davens as the sun begins to rise. He's being somech geula l'tefillah. So you see how medaktek, an example of how medaktek he is with the mitzvahs of Hashem. Rabbi Levi Omar shegana sefer refuos. He has a different interpretation. He was saying that I hid the sefer refuos, even though it was not necessarily yashar in the eyes of other people and good in the eyes of other people, but it was good in your eyes. In other words, people started to rely upon you for the refuah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, people started relying upon the sefer harefuos. I was going is that, so they should not rely on the sefer harefuos, but rather to rely on you. I too now am showing that I rely completely on you. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanon. The Gemara brings a brisa. It's recorded actually in the Mishnah in the 4th parak in Psochim. Shisha dvarim asa Chizkiya HaMelech. There are 6 things that Chizkiya HaMelech did. Al shalosh hoyduloi. On 3 that the Chachamim, they endorsed what he did, they agreed to what he did. Val gimel loi hoyduloi. And 3 that they did not endorse, they weren't maskim. Although it doesn't say that they protested, but they were not maskim. Al gimel hoyduloi is the following 3 things that they were hoydulo. First of all, gonaz sefer refuos v'hoyduloi. The first one is, like we mentioned just before, he took the sefer refuos that Shlomo HaMelech put together, that had all types of ways to then do things in order to get a refuah, and people started to rely on these refuos. And therefore, instead of turning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu with submissiveness, they just took these ingredients and what was written over there to become healed. So he saw that as a problem because we need to be botech in Hashem, and therefore he hid away the sefer refuos. Kitas nachash hanechoshes v'hoyduloi. This is referring to the nachash hanechoshes, when the Jewish people were in the midbar and they're getting bitten by the serpents. So Moshe Rabbeinu made a nachash hanechoshes. They should look at the nachash hanechoshes. He put it on a banner, and they should look up and see HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then mevakesh rachim from Hashem. But people began to use this as an avodah zarah. So he broke it, he smashed it. And therefore the Chachamim were indeed hoyduloi, they were masking to what he did. A third thing, girei atzomois aviv al mito shel chavolim v'hoyduloi. Here it says that he didn't honor his father Achaz, who was a Rasha, and he didn't give a burial procession of a king that is deserved of a king with all types of gold and silver on the coffin, but rather he was taken out with a mita that was very poshut, like a very simple person. And he wanted to do that so that his father should gain a kapara. V'hodulo, and the Chachamim, they were masking to what he did. Now the Mishnah says, V'al gimel loy hodulo. There are 3 things that he did that they were not moidu. Sosam me Gichon. He took the waters of Gichon, which is not referring to the Gichon in Eretz Yisrael, one of the main rivers that's written in the beginning of Sefer Bereshis, but rather this is the river that's next to Yerushalayim. V'lo hoduloi. He didn't want that the water should be a way of giving drink to Sanchev and his army, and therefore he closed the water system, so they shouldn't drink. But the Chachamim thought that he should indeed be boter b'Hashem instead of doing what he did. He was told by Yeshaya Navi rather, that he was going to be successful in the war. He took away, he peeled off the gold of the doors of the Heichal, and he sent that gold to the king of Ashur. And again, here the Chacham were not moided to what he did, because again he should have been boteich b'Hashem. Iber Nisan b'Nisan v'lo hoduloi. He was ma'aber the Shana, he added an extra month, and they were not moide. Says the Gemara to explain. Umi islei lechizkiya hachodesh hazeh lochem rosh chadashim. Doesn't Chizkiya Melech know the pasuk? It says hachodesh hazeh lochem rosh chadashim, referring to the chodesh of Nisan. Ze Nisan ve'ein acher Nisan. This is Nisan and nothing else. Elo to b'dishmuel. He made a mistake that was more slight. It wasn't the middle of Nisan, of course, that he then made an extra month of Adar, but rather it was the 30th day of Adar, which could have been Rosh Chodesh Nisan. But before they were Niskadesh, the day, he indeed made an additional month of Adar. The Omar Shmuel, a ma'abrin es hashana b'yom shloshim shel Adar. You shall not ma'abir the year by adding an additional Adar on the 30th day of Adar. Since it is possible to then, it's fitting to make it Rosh Chodesh Nisan. He thought that only because it's Roy that it's not a problem. He didn't realize that indeed that this is something that we don't do even on the 30th day of Adar. And therefore, as a result, they were not moided to him. Rabbi Yochanan says the following, Mishum Rabbi Yossi ben Zimra. When a person davens, he should daven not in his own zechus, but in the zechus of avos, or just to mevakish from HaKadosh Baruch Hu rachamim, because he doesn't have zechuyos. Says the Gemara, Kol ha'toile b'zechus atzmoi, toilin loi b'zechus acherim. If he's going to then daven on behalf of his own zechus, his own merits, then when he will then have the hatzalah, it will be brought in others' zechuyos. If he does daven in the zechus of other things, then they will be toilet on his own merit. Gemara now brings examples both ways. Says the Gemara, Shene'emar Moshe tola b'zechus acherim shene'emar zechor le'Avram le'Yitzchak u'Yisrael avodecho. When Moshe Rabbeinu davened, he said it should be in the zechus avos, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Tolu loy b'zechus atzmo. Then they were toile that he was answered in his own merit. Shene'emar, it states, Vayomer lahashmideim. He said that he should destroy them. Lulei Moshe bechiroi omad b'peretz lefonov. If it wasn't Moshe, his chosen one, who stood up in the breach in front of him, lahoshiv chamoser mehashchis, to return HaKadosh Baruch Hu's wrath from destroying. Chizkiah tola b'zchus atzmoi. However, Chizkiah, when he davened, he was toila on his own merit. The Chsiv says, "Zechor na es asher hisalachti lefonecha." The pasuk that we brought before. Tola lo b'zchus acherim. They were toila on the zchus of others. Shene'emar v'ganoisi el ha'ir hazois. Lahoshia, Lamani, Laman David Avdi. It says, and I will protect the city to save it in my sake, for my sake and the sake of David HaMelech, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says. V'hainu de Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, the Omar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, my dechsiv, it says, Hinei l'sholom mar li mar. It says that, behold, my longing for peace, and that only brought more bitterness. Says the Gemara, Afilu b'shah sheshiger l'HaKadosh Baruch Hu shalom. Even when HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent shalom, marhu loy, it was bitter to him. Says the Gemara, I'll quote the pasuk in full. Nase no aliyas kir kitana, v'nasim loy shom mita, v'shulchan, v'kisei u'menara, v'haya bevoya eleinu yosur shama. The pasuk says that the Shulamis woman said to her husband, let us make an attic that has a wall, and let us put a bed, a table, a lamp, and when he comes, referring to Elisha, then he will turn and then reside over here. Says the Gemara, Nase no aliyas kir kitana. Let us make for him a small attic with a wall. Ravu Shmuel, Chada ma aliyah prua haisa vikirua. One explains that refers to, in other words, there's a problem. It says kir and it says aliyas kir. Is it aliyah or is it a kir? Aliyah refers to an attic, a kir refers to a wall. So one opinion says it was an attic that was opened and they closed the attic. And the other says that it was an achsadra, it was a open area, that they put a chalukah and made it into two different parts. According to the one who says in Achsadra, it makes sense why it says the word kir. It means a wall to separate the two rooms. But the one who says it's an attic, what does a kir, what does a wall have to do with it? So the Gemara Shikirua, they put a closing of the attic, a roof on the top of the attic. That's what the kir is referring to. According to the one who says aliyah, that's why it says aliyas, it's an attic. What's the word aliyas to do with an achsadra? Says the Gemara, me'ula shebebatim. Aliyah is a reference to the me'ula, the best, they gave him the best of the rooms. Then the pasuk says, v'nosim lo mita v'shulchan v'kisei u'menorah. Omar Abaye v'yitem Rabbi Yitzchok. Haroitze Lehanois Yehane Ke'elisha. A person wants to get hospitality and benefit from others, he can do so like Elisha did. Since Elisha knew that he can pay back, then he received the hospitality. So too a person who knows that he can pay back with Hakaras HaToiv, he can also then take hospitality. However, a person does not want to then take hospitality from others. Al Yehane, he should not take hospitality kishmuel, like Shmuel Hanavi Haramosi. Shneimah, it says about him, v'tshuvasoi Haramosa kisham beisoi, that the tshuva of the Ramosa was over there in his house, referring to that everywhere he went, it was like his house, meaning to say he didn't expect and take hospitality wherever he went, although he traveled all around Eretz Yisrael. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, to explain, Shekol makom sheholach sham beisoi imoy, wherever he went, he had his own house with him because he didn't accept other people's houses for hospitality. Then the Gemara brings another pasuk. I want to read the pasuk in full. Says the Gemara, Vatoimer el Isha, and she said to her husband, they're referring to the Shunamis woman, Hinei no yadati, now I know, Ki ish Elokim kadoshu, that this man is an ish Elokim, he's kadosh. Oiver aleinu tamid, he comes by all of the time. Says the Gemara to darshan this pasuk, Vatoimer el Isha, Hinei no yadati, Ki ish Elokim kadoshu. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina. Mikan, from here we learn, Shehaisha makeres beorchin yoser mina ish, that a woman, she recognizes guests more than the husband. And for the simple reason, a woman is found in the house, that is her domain, and therefore she recognizes things in the house more than the husband. The pasuk says, Kadoshu, this Ish Elokim is Kadosh. What is the emphasis that he's Kadosh? Says the Gemara, Mino Yada, how does she know? Rav Shmuel, Chada Marshaloi Ra'asa Zavuv Oiver Al Shulchanoi. One said the reason is that she knew that he was Kadosh. She did not see a Zvuv, a little fly, where he used to eat. The Shulchan is considered to be like a Mizbeach, and Chazal teach us that even in the base Hamitbachayim, in the base Hamikdash, there wasn't a single fly because of the Kedusha of the place. V'chad Omar Sadin Shel Pishton Hitzia Al Mitosoi V'Larosa Keri Alov, that she would make his bed and she didn't find a stain from an emission at night, which means to say that he's an Ish Kadosh. He was careful to then Mekadesh himself by not thinking improper thoughts, and therefore it's made that he's an Ish Kadosh. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina, Hu Kadosh Umesharso Eino Kadosh. Here's an emphasis of Kadosh, who? He is Kadosh. But the one that he was with, that accompanied him, Gechazi, was not Kadosh. Gemara explains, Shneimah Vayigash Gechazi Lahadfa. And Gechazi, here is talking about, he wanted to push her away. She fell on his feet, and he didn't think that was appropriate. He wanted to push her away. The Gemara makes a drasha in the word Lahadfa. It's really two different words together. Amar Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina she'achza behoid yafya. He looked at her hadfa hoid yafa. He looked at her beauty, and therefore she knew that he is not an ish kadosh like Elisha. Then the pasuk says, Oiver alenu tamid. When he will pass by us all of the time, he'll come and he'll then take the hospitality. Says the Gemara, it wasn't so much that he came. It wasn't tamid. It was only midei pam. The pasuk itself says that. Rabbi Yosi, Rabbi Chanina, Mishum Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Kol ha'ma'arech talmid chacham b'toich beisoi. Anybody who gives hospitality to a talmid chacham, umehaneu minechasav, and he gives him pleasure from his own belongings. It's as if he was makriv tamidin, a korban tamid. That's the word tamid over here. It's as if the person was makriv a tamid, just like the tamid is considered to be shulchan gavoiha. This is where the HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kaviyachol eats. So too, the Talmid Chacham, which is a representative of Kedusha, he also eats at this person's shulchan. He is the one who's then giving the hana back, so to speak, of Kedusha to the person who was ma'arech him, who gave him hospitality. Another statement in the name of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Now we're talking about the in of tefillah. And he tells us, Al yamod odom b'mokom gavoya v'yispalil. A person shall not daven on a high place. Elo b'mokom namuch v'yispal. But rather he should daven in the low place. And be careful not to daven on something, standing on something that makes him taller. Shene'emar, this is mima'amakim krosicha Hashem. From the depths, you'll call out to Hashem. I'll call out to Hashem. Tanya nami hochi. We also have a brisa like this: Lo yamod odom lo al gabe kisei, v'lo al gabe shrafraf, v'lo b'makam gavoya v'yispala. A person should not stand, not on a chair, not on a footstool, and not in any place that is high and daven. He should daven in a low place, which also then should then help in them also feel more nichna, more submissive to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Elo b'makam namuch v'yispalel. Because there's no arrogance before HaKadosh Baruch Hu you're coming to daven before. From the depths I call out to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it also states, Tefillah le'ani kiyatoif. That means that the tefillah should be like an ani, who is submissive, who's nichna before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Another statement that he made in regards to tefillah. When a person davens, he should put his 2 feet together. Just like the malachim, their feet look like 1 foot because it's together, so too our feet should be like the malachim, that we should show that we are like malachim, turning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in submissiveness. Another statement that he made, also in regards to tefillah. What's meant by the pasuk? Lo soichlu al hadam. It doesn't say lo soichlu hadam. You cannot eat blood. That we already know from somewhere else. But it says lo soichlu al hadam. Lo soichlu koidem shispallu al dimchem. It means to say, do not eat before you daven al dimchem, referring to all your nefesh, which is the ram is hua nefesh, and therefore do not eat before tefillah, referring to shachris bedavka over here. A person should not eat before he davens. Rabbi Yisrael, Rabbi Yochanan, to explain further. Rabbi Yosi, Rabbi Chanina, Mishum Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Kol ha'oichel v'shoise v'achar yispal. A person who does eat and drink before he davens, olav ha'kosiv oimer. The pasuk says, v'oisi hishlachta acharei gavecha. You have thrown me behind your goof or your back. Al tikre gavecha, don't read your goof. Ella ge'echa, rather your arrogance. You have thrown me aside because of your goof, which has caused arrogance. After this person became arrogant by filling his stomach up, then he turns to me and is mekabel ol malchus shamayim. Says the Gemara, quoting the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, according to Rabbi Yoshua, a person say Kriya Shema shel shacharis until the end of the 3rd hour, the first quarter of the day. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Halacha Kirabi Yoshua. The halacha is indeed that a person can still say Kriya Shema Shel Shacharis until the end of the third hour. Lichatchili, he should say it earlier, but he can still say until the end of the third hour. The Mishnah then says, Hakare mikan ve'elich lo hifsid. If a person reads now onwards, after that third hour, he doesn't lose. Now certainly he lost the mitzvah of Kriya Shema Bizmanoi. That is batal. No longer can he fulfill that mitzvah. Because whatever Kriya Shema he says later on tonight, it's only going to be mitzvah shel Kriya Shema shel Arvis tonight. And the next morning will be a new Kriya Shema shel Shacharis. So he has lost forever the mitzvah of Kriya Shema shel Shacharis. But says the Gemara to explain. First of all, the Gemara says, Amar Rav Chizda, Amar Ramar Ukva. Ubilvad shelo yoymar yoytzer or. It says, so long as he does not say yoytzer or, meaning to say, he can't say the brachos of Kriya Shema. The Gemara asks on this, Meisvei, Hakare mikan ve'elech lo hifsid ke'odem shu kore b'Torah. It says a person who reads after the third hour, he is still able to read, and it's like he's reading the Torah. He gets schar for reading psukim of the Torah. Aval mevarech hu shtayim lefaneh v'achas lachareh. But in regards to the Birkos Kriya Shema, he can still say the brachos. So here you have a question, a kasha, on the statement that we just had, Tiyufta de Rav Chizda Tiyufta, and therefore it takes away, it knocks out that which Rav Chizda said that you cannot say Birkas Kriya Shema. Says the Gemara, Ike da Amre. There are those who explain and say the following, a different version. Omar Rav Chizda Omar Mar Ukva, in his name. My lo hifsid. What did he mean when it said in the Mishnah lo hifsid? Shelo hifsid brachos. He didn't lose out the brachos. He can still say the Birkas Kriya Shema. Tanya Nami Hochi, we have a brisa also like this. Hakare mikan ve'elech, a person who reads after the third hour, the Shema, lo hifsid, ke'odam shekore b'Torah. He still can say the words of the Kriya Shema, and it'll be like he's saying Torah. He still gets schar for saying psukim of the Torah. Aval mevarech hu shtayim lefoneh ve'achas lachara, and he can still say the brachos of the Kriya Shema, both before and after. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Mani, Godol hakore Kriya Shema be'oinasa yoser ma'oisek b'Torah. When a person says Kriya Shema in its right time, it's even greater than one who is oisek in Torah. Midiktani hakore mikan ve'elech lo hifsid ke'odam hakore b'Torah. When it says that a person in the Mishnah says that after the third hour he can still read the Kriya Shema, but it'll be like he is reading psukim the Torah. Michlal, it follows the kore b'oinasa adi. But if you read in the right time, that's more than just reading psukim of the Torah, and therefore it's even greater than somebody who is oisek b'Torah.